you, Shannon, and thank you all so much for joining us, both in person and virtually. We're thrilled to have you here at Palo Alto Networks. As Shannon mentioned, I'm the Operations Program Manager, and it's also my privilege and pleasure to help lead our women's network community. We are so excited to be hosting what's sure to be an impactful and inspirational inaugural event, so thank you. Here at Palo Alto Networks, inclusion is one of our core values. At the Women's Network, as well as through our employee networks across the globe, we want to believe that people have a sense of community and can come to work and be inspired and feel heard and valued. Our Women's Network was the first and is our largest employee network group. We are over 1,500 members strong, and we have chapters in the Americas, in Europe, and in APAC. Our tagline for our Women's Network is Connect, Empower, and Inspire. And I do believe all of you will be connected, inspired, and empowered today at this event. So without further ado, I would like to introduce today's first speakers. They will be doing a conversation on leadership philosophy. It will be led by Lisa Davis, Senior Vice President and Chief Information Officer of Blue Shield of California. Lisa is driving Blue Shield, a $22.9 billion nonprofit insurance company which serves 4.8 million members and has 7,800 employees, toward a future state of healthcare, transforming the IT business, operating model, and leveraging digital technology, data, and analytics to improve the member and provider experience. Lisa holds a Master of Science degree in Human Resource Management from Golden Gate University and a Bachelor of Science in Computer Engineering from Syracuse University. She's a champion of gender equality and diversity in the workplace, getting girls involved in STEM subjects early, and the importance of women supporting each other, especially women in tech. Leadership philosophy will be moderated by Alyssa Simpson Rochwerger, Director of Digital Member Experience at Blue Shield of California. I would like to welcome them both to the stage. Thank you, and enjoy the afternoon.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. Lisa, you've built your career in IT across all different sectors in government and academia and tech. What brought you to healthcare?
Healthcare, wow. I had the opportunity, certainly when I was at Intel, running a P&L for data center group, to really work with healthcare companies, hospitals, genomic companies globally. And it doesn't take a lot of rocket science to figure out that healthcare has always kind of been a laggard when it comes to digital transformation. And I wanted to have an impact. You know, I had spent 5.5 years at Intel. I was trying to determine what that next right opportunity for me was and where I could have the biggest impact, bringing my experience and knowledge to the table. But it was also some personal decisions too. I had been working like a dog, you know, traveling globally extensively, extremely busy. My youngest was going to become a senior in high school, and I wanted to be home more. And Blue Shield of California was primarily California-based. It removed all that global travel that I was doing so I could be more home with my daughter, Alexandra. And who knew, when I joined Blue Shield of California, literally 1 week later, I had to take the company completely remote over a 4-day weekend. So my entire ramp until recently into Blue Shield of California has been virtual. Building relationships, driving transformation, cultivating, building relationships in order to get things done. One person said to me, well, you can put on your resume now, you're a virtual CIO. I'm like, I don't know if I want that on my resume, right? I don't know if this is a good thing. So it's finally great to meet folks like Alyssa here and to meet my teams and to be back in person now that we've just opened up kind of hybrid in the company.
It's been fun to see you in action, putting the technology into place. What are some other examples that you might be able to share of how you're using technology to transform healthcare?
We're actually starting at the beginning, starting with moving from an on-premise environment, leased data centers, and even though cloud's been around for 15 years now, cloud technologies, we're actually migrating our entire infrastructure to the cloud. Data is at the heart of our strategy, building a really differentiating experience with the data platform in the cloud. And what's exciting about that experience, part of what we want to do at Blue Shield of California, and I think we can all agree, being members or members of other payers, is the healthcare experience is not what it should be. We believe in a healthcare experience that is personalized, it's holistic, it's high tech and high touch. We're in control of our decision making in healthcare. Part of the data platform that we're building is where we would be able to share information with obviously the right privacy and security controls between you, the member, your doctors, and the payer. Imagine if we were all looking at the same data. And it shows that when folks are involved in their decision making, they get better health outcomes. Not only do we get better health outcomes because you're involved, you're engaged, you're sharing, you're aware of all the information. I don't know about all of you, but I have different doctors, and all the doctors don't share information with the other doctors, and I mean, it's craziness.
Amazing how bad it is.
Right? It's so bad. So that experience that we as consumers expect in retail, in our banking, in this day and age, we need that same experience in healthcare. And that's what excites me about the mission and vision of what we do at Blue Shield of California. And one of the reasons, in the first question you asked me, I came because that vision and that mission really resonated with me in terms of where I could have impact.
That's why I'm here too. I'm wondering if you could share with the audience a couple of examples of like what that tangibly means that you've done in the last year or two.
Yeah, well, it's a lot. You know, I had the pleasure of serving actually with Alyssa on the vaccine task force last year. So Blue Shield of California was partnered with the California state government. Our job was to accelerate vaccine distribution in the most equitable way across the entire state. So frankly, I was honored to be able to serve in that capacity and to really help the state. Alyssa was a key part of that as well in terms of the work that we did together. You know, we're constantly driving that member experience. It's the end of the day is what is that experience that we can provide to our members, as well as the doctors, the providers that serve across all of our networks. So improving that member and provider experience, frankly, making it easy for providers to do their job. We're doing such things as using natural language processing. When a physician or your provider captures those notes electronically, goes right into the electronic health record, right? So that you reduce that overhead on our providers so that we actually have more time with our doctors versus, 15 minutes, next, in terms of how we're working with each of our providers. So that's an example of what we're doing. We're trying to do, and we've just delivered a technical capability on real-time claims. Imagine if you didn't get a piece of paper in the mail that you didn't understand what it said anyway, of what you were covered for and what was the service that you received. And you actually went into a provider or hospital, you understood the service, you knew the cost of the service, you were able to settle or pay for that service based on your insurance plan in near real time. It would reduce over, I think it's $250 billion in the healthcare industry based on overhead, and it's all about ultimately reducing the cost of healthcare in this country. So that's an example. We're also starting virtual care. Most people want, since the pandemic, to be able to have a virtual appointment with a provider that can be very easily addressed and then follow up appropriately, have an integrated set of doctors that they can communicate, that they understand who Alyssa is, what is she being treated for, what is her current state of health, and have that holistic representation and engagement from our providers in doing that. So there's so many things as we drive transformation in healthcare. There probably isn't an area that's not being addressed in terms of ultimately improving that provider and that member experience and transforming how we get healthcare today.
So shifting gears a little bit, it's hard to do this work in healthcare. And one moment I saw you in action, I think there was a room full of men and they didn't want to all send you data and integrate with it in the vaccine world. Yeah. And I'm curious, sort of, what are some of your experiences that have impacted how you lead and what your leadership style is in what can be a male-dominated environment?
I'm usually in a room full of men. So this is great that I'm in a room full of women, which I love here. No, and thank you to our male allies that have joined us. I mean, I grew up, frankly, literally, I grew up in Department of Defense. I was a high school senior that started working for the federal government. The federal government was trying to recruit engineers. My father found the ad in the paper, bless his heart, and said, wow, this looks like a really interesting job for you. And I'm thinking, Lakehurst Naval Air Engineering Center with a bunch of old, bald-headed men doing COBOL programming. Yeah, Dad, sign me up for that. It's totally it. What was interesting is that every summer, every spring break, I would work, every winter break. I never went to the Bahamas or any, big spring break, never had that opportunity to do that. And then right out of college, you were on an accelerated, because the government starts at GS2, goes up to GS15, and then there's senior executive service members. Well, I started as a GS2, and every year I came back, I would go to the next grade level, and then if I decided to stay with the government, then I would be on an accelerated promotion. So long story short, after I graduated, I said, I'm not working for the government. I was going to go work for an IBM or an HP, a big tech company. And then I married a Navy guy. And our first duty station was Guantanamo Bay, Cuba.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Wow, my parents are like, she's lost her mind. I graduated in May, I was married in October, and in January I'm in Gitmo. And I'm thinking, what the hell did I just do?
Yeah.
Needless to say, I'm no longer married to that guy, but needless to say, I wound up spending 26 years in the Department of Defense. And I'm really proud of the fact that I started as a student, high school student, GS2, and I retired as a senior executive service member, which is equivalent to a 4-star admiral or general. Right. And that's a journey. That is definitely a journey. So what did I learn from that experience? I was always the only woman in the room. There's a great movie with Jessica Chastain in it. I think it's a Black Hawk Down, but it's about 9/11 and catching Osama bin Laden. And she shows a scene in the government where, of course, you come in as the woman and all the men are gathered around the table. And what does she do? She takes the seat in the back of the room. But she's the one that has the intelligence and the information as to what needs to be done to actually catch Osama bin Laden. Anyway, haven't seen the movie. Great movie. So I learned I had to be, first of all, I had to be very direct. I had to be able to communicate. But most importantly, I had to be really good at what I did. So I had to develop an expertise that I was respected for the expertise that I brought to the table. And in that movie, what is paralleled is that is in fact what that character Jessica did. She was an expert in her field. So one of the ways that I kept moving forward, all in technology and Department of Defense, but on the intelligence side of the house, was I became very good at what I did, and I delivered results. So it's about execution, and it's about results. And you get comfortable and confident in finding your voice, being able to articulate and speak to that And then the kind of sex in the room, not the sex in the room, the men, you know, you're no longer, oh, well, she's just the woman. Oh, no, we need to have Lisa now at the table because Lisa's now the expert at the table as to what we're doing. So that very much shaped me in terms of the leader that I wanted to be. I certainly saw lots of examples of the leader I didn't want to be. And I had to learn, observe, understand how to have impact, how to be able to drive transformational change. And while I was in government, you know, working my way up the ranks in almost every area in technology, infrastructure, help desks, mission systems, application development, deputy CIO, until I became a CIO. And I was a CIO in counterintelligence. I can't tell you anything because I'd have to kill you all. You know, that's the standard line. And then a CIO at the US Marshal Service, which was a fascinating job before I retired. When I left, my next adventure was the CIO at Georgetown University in academia, Department of Defense and academia.
Oh, little different.
My goodness, yeah. Consensus-driven decision-making. The students were fabulous, so bright. Started Women Who Code at Georgetown University and then started the chapter in Washington, D.C. But that was a completely different experience of incredible academics, different type of leadership in academia, male-dominated, primarily all male CIOs. Left after 3 years, that was enough. Was recruited to come to Intel. Male-dominated, very few women. So each of those experiences have shaped me in terms of what is most important to me as a leader. And what's important to me is alignment to core values, being authentic, being honest, having integrity. That's how I want to be treated. That's how I try to treat others, and that's how I build a team. Being very open and direct and transparent in terms of what are we doing, how are we going to get there, what does success look like, and how can I help you be successful? And that is how I view my job, is developing the leaders around me and folks that I mentor and folks within the organization of how do I get them to their next goal? What is it that you aspire to be? And that's probably one of the things I'm most passionate about as a leader.
So you talked a little bit about sort of developing an expertise and becoming really good at what you do. What are some of the other skills that you've had to learn or hone over the years?
Well, and I think we have a variety of leaders from different sectors in the room. So being a technology leader today is being a business leader. Every company today is a tech company, tech and data company. So no matter what company you're in, what sector you're in, having that knowledge of data and technology is really important in order to continue moving forward in your career. In addition to those skills, I always think of a triangle as you continue to move up the ladder. You need to have your expertise, and in my case, it was technology leadership, and I got very broad in terms of moving into that leadership role. You also need to have financial acumen. So you need to have financial acumen as you continue to move forward, so you need to add that in. And then you need and absolutely must have business acumen, right? So those business acumen skills and knowing what the business is doing, what are the strategic goals of the company, how are you going to help drive to those business outcomes? That is my job as a technology and business leader, and that financial acumen and skill sets. But you also need those interpersonal skills. The soft skills are really important, and that's what's been so hard during the pandemic. I mean, we're all exhausted being on Zoom calls, you know, at the start of the day until the end of the day. So how do you communicate your vision? How do you inspire others to want to follow you and get on the bus with you on that particular vision that you have articulated to your team? So soft skills, written skills, verbal skills, the ability to communicate and get comfortable at doing that are all part of kind of building that portfolio and building that package so that you can continue in whatever your goals are.
Awesome. So can you talk a little bit around, I'm sure it all hasn't been rainbows. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the challenges that you face along the way and any advice you have for those who might be facing their own challenges?
What do you mean? It's not just all rainbows? No, it's never a rainbow. I literally, every role that I've been in, and certainly in a leadership role, there are challenges. And those are challenges that frankly need to be viewed as opportunities. And the name of the game for me and why I think I've continued to be able to do what I love to do and try different roles, it's perseverance. You persevere. When you get knocked down, you pick yourself up and you go back at it again. You learn from your failures. You learn where the struggles were from. You learn from difficult relationships or conversations that you have, and you apply that to the next time that you will have them again. You will have them again. So it is staying true to yourself and your core values of what is most important to you. It is continuing to persevere and pick yourself up when those challenges present themselves, and they will always, no matter, it's not always greener on the other side, it's just a different set of opportunities and challenges that you'll be dealt with, and you keep moving forward. And I think it's really important, and us that work, we have so many different roles that we play. Mother, daughter, sister, oh my goodness, coach on the outside, and then you're working full time. So we have to be many different things to many different people. The more you surround yourself with a network of family and friends and colleagues that support you, that are there to pick you up when you're not having a very good day, that are going to encourage you to keep pursuing your dreams. It's not that you can't, it's just really hard to do it by yourself. So whether it's a partner, whether it's a spouse, whether it's a friend, whether it's a colleague, I always talk about kind of building your own board of directors.
We call that village in my family.
Yeah, or building a village. But if I was going to create my own board of directors, who would I place on that board? To keep me grounded, to bounce off things from. I'm not really having a really great day here, and I'd love to get your thoughts of, this is how I'm thinking about it. What am I missing? How are you thinking about it? So create that board of directors, create that village. And I've been lucky enough to be married 23 years. I have 3 incredible children. My oldest is 32. My son is a senior in college. He's 21, unbelievable. And my youngest is a sophomore in college at NYU. I have an incredible husband who is a full partner in allowing me to do the job that I do. If toilets need to be cleaned, he's cleaning the toilets. Laundry needs to be done, he's doing laundry. Kids need to be picked up from the soccer game, he's picking them up. And we look at each other and say, because he works full time, oh, I remember when the kids were little and you have a 3-year-old. I know you go through this, right? Oh my God, they're not feeling good today. Who can stay home? Oh, I got a meeting at 10 o'clock. Oh, I got a really important meeting that I got to be at 1 o'clock. And it becomes this ruthless prioritization of where you need to be and how you manage through that. Because it is never in balance. Never. Don't let anybody ever tell you that. There is no such thing as perfect balance. It is ruthless prioritization of where you need to be.
That is how I try to manage my household.
It's hard.
It's hard
It is
work.
hard. Yes.
So last question, then we'd love to open it up to the audience to take some questions as well. But you've dedicated so much of your time, and today's such a nice example of creating awareness of the need for diversity in tech, and how can every one of us sort of help support that mission?
It is a call to action. Women are at in the labor force the lowest level since 1988. You've all heard of the Great Resignation. Hopefully you've heard of the Great Secession. I mean, there was tremendous learnings through the pandemic. Many, many women left because of taking care of parents, taking care of kids, all the reasons of what we've all endured to try to get to the other side of the pandemic. We have 25% of diversity in women in technology, which is why you do not see a lot of role models of CIOs. Nor a lot of CEOs, and women in the C-suite in general. So we were making slow progress, and now we've basically pushed back, I don't know, I forgot what the number was. It'll take 50 years or something to get back to the levels that we were at. It is a call to action. I mean, look what's happening politically. I mean, we're in crazy town right now in terms of things that are happening politically as well, but we're not going to go there. In terms of women's rights and women in leadership roles and women in the C-suite and women on boards. So, one of the things I'm really proud of at Blue Shield of California is we have 50% diversity at the senior leadership level of women. And diverse talent. We have equal pay and parity between men and women. And we have the first female board chair in our 88-year history in terms of our board of directors. That's impressive stuff. And I got to tell you, coming to healthcare, one of the things I love in healthcare is I see more women. More women in healthcare than any other sector that I have worked in. And that has been a real blessing.
It has. It's really cool to see. It's one of the things that attracted me to Blue Shield.
Yeah.
So we have a few pre-submitted questions, but I'd love to open it up if there's any questions from the audience. Yeah.
Lisa, thank you for mentioning about women who left the workforce and are trying to return to work, because I know you have a huge you're championing a program where women can actually return to work on returnships.
Yes.
And that is such a key to bring those 2.5 million women back in.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, absolutely. There has to be diverse HR policies that allow women to return to the workplace, to be able to accommodate the schedules that they have. Frankly, our daycare facilities are not back 100% as they were prior to the pandemic. So there's all of these factors. And at the end of the day, yes, the job is important, but your family. Family is number one for me, taking care of our families. And it's hard to be focused and dedicated and successful in the office when something else is lingering in the back of your mind of, how's my child doing? How's my mom doing? All these other things that we have on our plate. So those diverse HR policies in terms of bringing back women is incredibly important.
So another question we just got is, as you've grown as a leader and transitioned out of doing as an individual contributor and into more of a leadership role, how did you find space to make that transition to coaching and relationship building?
Yes, space and time are always a challenge because we live in a meeting culture world. I mean, if we would allow it every hour, every minute of my day, I would be sitting in a meeting. So one of the things I always folks that I coach and mentor is, if you don't set boundaries for yourself, no one else will do it for you, right? So you have to set those boundaries in terms of managing your day, managing your schedule. Obviously, the more senior you go, I can say, unless my boss is scheduling a meeting, no, I'm not going to take that meeting at 7:30 in the morning. Are we at war? What happened? What is so important that we come into a meeting at 7:30 in the morning? So setting those boundaries, taking time for health and wellness, and taking an hour during the lunch hour, putting those boundaries away so you can think. We need time to think. And as a leader, it's creating that capacity to allow me to, my job's supposed to be think strategically, you know? So I kid around with, you know, so I'm not sitting there with my feet up eating bonbons. I mean, I am supposed to be thinking of what we're doing for the next 3 to 5 years. You need space and capacity to do that, so you have to create it. And I do that on my calendar. And then you need that space in order to do things that my job is to develop the leaders around me. So that development and coaching to help them, they all want to be CIOs, which I think is awesome. And that's one of the things that I love doing. So if you don't create that space and capacity, and it's always a challenge, and there's times when, yes, we just had a 7-hour meeting with the boss. There's not a lot of space and capacity in there to do other things. And you surge through those periods where you need to surge and meet a deadline, but then you need to get back to taking control of my calendar, my time, making time for yourselves and health and wellness, so that you can be the best that you can be. Can't be the best mom, can't be the best employee, can't be the best leader if you're not taking care of yourself. So I'm hugely passionate about that.
So I think last question is, what leaders have inspired you, and what have you learned from other women in the executive ranks?
Has anybody watched the show First Ladies?
No.
I highly recommend it. Little did I know that Eleanor Roosevelt was a badass. Right? So they showcased Eleanor Roosevelt, Michelle Obama, and Betty Ford, another badass. And I learned so much. I already knew Michelle Obama was badass. So how strong. So what's incredible about those role models, another role model is Condoleezza Rice, right? Just incredibly intelligent, integrity, smart, you know, just articulate in terms of how she engaged with her people, how she did her job. So I think in the more role models we have in terms of, well, what does it mean to be a female leader? You know, I talk a lot about authentic leadership. Authentic leadership doesn't mean you're soft. It doesn't mean that you don't get results and you don't accomplish and execute what you're supposed to. It means that you care about the people that you're working with, that you're invested in their success, that you're open and direct and transparent with your team, whether they want to hear it or not, because it's delivered with the right intent and the right purpose of keeping and helping them moving forward. So those are some of my role models of women, and just watching and observing and how they handled situations is what kind of shaped my own thinking.
Awesome. Well, Lisa, thank you for your service. Thank you for your service to Blue Shield and for being here today. And thank you all for your questions.
Yeah, thank you all.